Morning, everybody. Welcome back to Just Keep Parenting. We are ramping up here on campus for the fall semester, and just wanted to check in and see how everybody was doing. I love the topic that we're going to discuss today, which is a win-win discipline. Just talking about choices. If you look back in past videos, there's a lot of information about how to help children be autonomous. They want to be autonomous, right? And so as we parent them, we can have a win-win situation when we help them to have appropriate choices, right? Not false choices. And that's another thing we're going to talk about today is the difference between appropriate choices and false choices, right? Because as children develop their own sense of autonomy, which is part of development, we want them to do it. We want them to fly, right? And our job is to help them to do that, right? But sometimes they assert themselves, right? As on this autonomous journey, they assert themselves if they hear a command from an adult, right? And remember, I use the word command as just a very direct, right, assertiveness. It's not a mean thing. It's just stating it as it is, right? But this can often lead to a face-off if they're feeling that autonomous push and you have just asked them to do something. So instead of an assertive command, you can just give choices, right? You can give two choices, two positive, not false, two positive choices that can help them, right? They have to be acceptable as well, right? We have all kinds of stories, and I'm sure you have your own parenting stories where you have given non-acceptable choices. If you do that again, right? My niece and I continue to laugh about, if you do that again, I'm going to swish your head in the toilet, because she was just so frustrated. She called me in tears, Aunt Dory, I can't do that. And I'm like, well, how did it go? And she said, well, she did it. It was so great. So I didn't have to do that, right? So we want to make sure that they're acceptable, right? Acceptable to us, right? And that the outcome fits what that assertive, the outcome fits it, right? And so I think the most wonderful thing about choices is it allows the child to comply, right? And it also gives them the last word, if you will, right? And we get done what needs to be done, okay? So if we give two choices, these are the benefits, right, that we see from children. They attend to the task that we feel is important, right? They comply with our wishes, number two. Number three is they learn decision-making skills and the value of commitment, right? And they also, they can also redirect their behavior, right? And learn impulse control from that. And then they establish and maintain self-control, right? And so all of these things, these 6 ideas happen when we give choices, right? When we give acceptable choices. And I just love that there's so much good coming from something that I just have to tweak just a little bit, right? To be able to give choices. I know in the book that we're talking about right now, which is Easy to Love, Difficult to Discipline, one of the things that the author, Dr. Becky Bailey, talks about is, yeah, as we talk about choices, she meets a lot of parents that say, yeah, we've tried the choice thing, it doesn't really work, right? Well, it doesn't work because we're not working it the right way, right? And we're giving false choices, which is what I want to talk about now, right? The children need the choices to be acceptable and positive, right? When we think about this, it's okay to rewind, right? Because sometimes we do give unacceptable choices, like, really, did I just say that, right? So we have to rewind. I teach the kids all the time, when Miss Dory makes a mistake, she just does a little rewinding. Okay, I'm going to think again, and I'm going to say it again, right? We model that for our children. What a great life skill, right? To be able to help them figure out that it's okay to make mistakes, right? If you haven't read Carol Dweck's book on mindset, it is another wonderful book on helping our kids to be more resilient, right? Anyway, I just love that book as well. Maybe we'll do a video about it later. But we may have been raised with false choices, right, in our own homes, in our own lives, right? You can go to sleep now, or you're never going to have another sleepover again. Really? Never, right? We know from other experience that we probably shouldn't use never and always in our relationships, right? Because they're pretty definitive, right? And so just being aware of that, right? Choices are presented as positive, a positive choice and a negative choice, right? That's what makes a false choice, right? Because it usually feels like we're, to the child, it feels like they're being coerced, right? And when we offer two positive choices, it's more, I feel like I can be successful, right? And so when we offer false choices, this is what Becky Bailey says in the book. When we offer false choices, we set the children up to believe that when they think, feel, or choose differently than we do, they are bad, wrong, or disrespectful, instead of simply having made a choice. Let me read that again, because I think it's pretty powerful. When we offer false choices, we set the children up to believe that when they think, feel, or choose differently than we do, they are bad, wrong, or disrespectful, instead of simply having made a choice, right? So sometimes when we do false choices, it seemingly puts like one person in charge of situations, right? Last week we talked about reclaiming our parental power, because we give it away to our kids sometimes on a daily basis, right? Not meaning to, but we do by the words that we use, right? If you want to look at that one, you can go back to last week's and see that. Because kids don't actually control, right, certain situations as they're growing up. As they grow up older, they actually start to control things, right, in their own life. But as littles, until they become that adult, when we give false choices, we destroy their free will, right? There's another video on free will if you'd like to look back through that. Right? Put your pajamas on, okay? Right? It gives them that false choice, right? Like, do I have a choice to put on my pajamas, right? And sometimes I struggle with this, right, in the classroom. And I have learned that I just substitute okay with something else. So I might say, hey, buddy, you need to tuck in your chair, right? So that it's I'm not putting the okay on it. Or if I want to put the okay on, I'm like, put on your chair or tuck in your chair, sweetie. I substitute something really quick so that I don't say the word okay, right? Because that okay just ramps it up to be a false choice, right? Parents who often give false choices, right, or caregivers who give false choices are kind of afraid to say what they really want, right? And sometimes they don't even know what they want. It's okay. It's okay to stop and say, you know what, I need to think about this, right? We're not very good at giving ourselves a break, right? We don't have all the answers. We didn't get a parenting manual. We didn't get a manual to know how to respond to everything, and that's okay. It's also okay to say, you know what? I can't make this decision right now. I've got to go think about this for a minute. So, I'm going to go to my room, you go to your room, and I'm going to take a few minutes to think about this. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with diffusing the situation, right? And giving ourselves a break to be able to make better choices so that we don't end up giving our child false choices, right? So as you think about the word okay at the end of your commands, right? There was another one in here that I thought was so great. Could you please get dressed, right? Some parents have said to me, well, I like to say the word please. I want, well, great, that's all right. But instead of saying, can you please get dressed, we should say something like, you need to get dressed, please. Right? And that's still, some people will argue with me and say, well, that's still kind of like, okay, right? Please get dressed, right? There again, that's taking the okayness out of it, right? And so as we think about that, as we practice, right? As maybe you're cleaning the bathroom, or maybe you're at work or driving, just those different things that you say that put okay at the end, or put like, is it an option at the end, rather than that assertiveness. That will just change your parenting, and you'll have amazing outcomes, right? And those as the children are starting to assert themselves, right, those face-offs will become less and less if we can offer two positive choices and not go down the false choice road. So good luck this week. I'd love to hear about any successes or, learning moments that you have. I don't like to call them failures because I really do feel like they're learning moments. They step us forward, right? A stepping stone. So good luck this week as we have a win-win discipline and try to eliminate our false choices. Thanks everybody for joining.